Metal grinds against a concrete parking pillar, and the exact neural circuits that process a tearing fingernail instantly flood with alarm. The damage is to a fiberglass bumper, but the sensory cortex registers a direct, physical wound to the flesh. Today, we are going to map exactly how the brain wires a 2-ton machine directly into the human nervous system. The sickening crunch of a tight parking space carries a weight far heavier than a repair bill. The stomach drops because, for the duration of the drive, the boundaries of the physical form have been completely rewritten. The strange truth is, the mind cannot operate a vehicle without first absorbing it. To steer, the parietal lobe must digest the dimensions of the steel and accept them as bone. Every time a hand grips a steering wheel, a geographic shift happens in the head. The homunculus, the distorted, internal blueprint the brain keeps of the body, suddenly grows outward. Consider how a driver automatically ducks when a car approaches a low garage ceiling. The concrete beam is 3 feet above the actual human skull, yet the neck muscles contract as the vehicle passes under it. The nervous system acts as if the metal roof is the top of the cranium. This spatial trick is an ancient survival mechanism, adapted for modern traffic. The body possesses a built-in capacity to adopt tools as appendages. The mind does this with a fork. It does it with a tennis racket. The speed of this bodily rewrite is staggering. The transition from walking flesh to a unified, metallic organism happens in a sliver of time so brief it comfortably fits between the firing of a single spark plug. The integration is nearly instantaneous. Before we examine the mechanics of that rapid biological takeover, consider subscribing to the Minecraft and liking this video, because there is so much more to uncover about the quiet miracles happening beneath the skull. Let us climb back into the driver's seat. The integration begins at the fingertips. Sensory receptors in the palms pick up the micro-vibrations of the steering column. Rubber tires roll over a patch of rough gravel. That harsh texture travels up the suspension, through the frame, up the steering shaft, and into the skin. The brain does not interpret this as the car touching gravel. It interprets the event as the self touching gravel. The vehicle becomes a highly sensitive, extended prosthesis. Watch a blind person navigating a sidewalk with a cane. The stick sweeps back and forth, tapping the pavement. If asked where they feel the street, they do not point to the palm of the hand. They feel the texture of the concrete at the very tip of the cane. The mind has projected the sense of touch down a length of hollow aluminum. A sedan is simply a heavier, louder cane. Yet a cane only points forward. A vehicle wraps entirely around the human inside it. The brain must stretch its proprioception, the internal tracking of where limbs are in space, in a massive, 360-degree bubble. The challenge is immense. The nervous system is suddenly responsible for keeping track of 4 distant corners of metal. It must sense the invisible gaps between the side mirrors and passing trucks. The sensory cortex has to know where the front right tire sits on the asphalt, just as intuitively as it knows where the right foot rests on the pedal. To fail is to crash. So the mind rushes to build a new map, projecting a web of awareness through the chassis. At exactly 40 milliseconds, the parietal lobe updates the blueprint. The borders of the human skin vanish. The nervous system now ends at the bumpers. What happens to a vulnerable nervous system when a 2-ton metal body gets violently scratched? The illusion works flawlessly for navigation. It becomes a psychological liability in a collision. A tire scrapes a granite curb while parallel parking. The sound is terrible, yes, but watch the physiological reaction of the driver. The jaw clenches. The heart rate spikes. A sharp intake of breath. A physical flinch ripples through the torso. This is not a reaction to financial loss. It is a biological pain response. The sensory cortex, which has spent the past 20 minutes treating the alloy wheel as an extension of the leg, perceives the scraping stone as an abrasion to the knee. The brain registers a damaged bumper as a physical injury because it has firmly coated the plastic fascia as the leading edge of the body. There is a reason a minor fender bender feels so deeply violating. When another vehicle taps the rear bumper at 5 miles an hour, the physical force transferred to the occupant is minimal. The flesh remains completely unharmed. Yet the hands shake. Adrenaline floods the bloodstream. The mind perceives an attack on the self. Someone has breached the perimeter. They have struck the phantom body. Decades ago, researchers mapped the brains of macaques using simple tools. When a monkey was handed a wooden rake to pull a piece of food closer, certain neurons fired in the motor cortex. These were the exact same neurons that lit up when the animal reached out with a natural arm. The neural architecture did not possess a separate category for the wooden handle. Tool and limb were identical in the dark, electrical void of the skull. When a human merges with an automobile, the stakes are simply magnified. The machine commands incredible speed. It moves through a complex, deadly environment. To keep the organism alive, the brain cannot afford the tiny delay required to think about the car as a separate object. It must merge. If the eyes see a pedestrian step off the curb, the foot hits the brake before the conscious mind even forms a thought. The brake pedal ceases to be a mechanical lever. The spring-loaded steel acts as a contracting muscle. Every bump in the road is felt not just as turbulence, but as a bodily sensation. When a wheel drops into a deep pothole, the spine absorbs a mechanical jolt, but the mind winces for the undercarriage. The driver does not mourn the bent steel. The nervous system experiences a localized trauma. The parietal lobe is remarkably gullible. It accepts whatever dimensions are necessary to survive the immediate moment. It casts a net of awareness so vast it encompasses thousands of pounds of glass and metal, holding it all together as a single living entity moving down the highway. This phantom web requires immense cognitive energy to maintain. The strain of projecting consciousness into a machine explains why a long highway drive leaves the body feeling so thoroughly exhausted. The legs hardly moved for hours. The arms barely shifted. Yet the brain was holding together a massive, extended physical form, dodging threats at 70 miles an hour. Step out of the driver door, and the illusion instantly collapses. The heavy metal shell reverts to an object. A scrape on the paint is suddenly just a scratch on a car. The visceral pain evaporates, replaced merely by annoyance. The phantom web retracts, snapping back into the tight, familiar confines of the human skin. But turn the key in the ignition. Shift the gear into drive. The ghostly net extends once more. The line between biology and engineering erases completely. We spend our lives driving around in metal suits, unaware that our brains have turned them into our own skin. If this changed how you see your own body, subscribe. There is far more hidden inside you that we have not explored yet. A like and a comment genuinely help this channel reach more curious minds, and that support is what makes it possible to keep producing these documentaries. Tell us in the comments what we should explore next.